Those of you that have been watching this channel for a little while may have heard that I'm not the biggest Laphroaig fan. But I may have found something that changes my mind. Welcome back, Dram Fam, to the Whisky Diary. Quite interestingly, one of my first ever experiences with whiskey outside of the Glenmorangie that my dad used to drink on the sofa when I was a kid, and we used to sit together and watch Star Trek, was one time I was in a bar in London before the theatre, and the guy behind the bar, I think I was trying to impress one of my exes actually. The guy behind the bar said, "Oh, if you like your whiskey, you'll like this." Well, obviously, I try to show off. I'm like, "Yeah, go on, bring it down." And he handed me a green bottle, and I smelt it. He said, "You can really smell the mud that's in it." And so I always thought Laphroaig was full of mud. A few years later, I was in a Wetherspoons, and I asked for a whiskey and coke. And the guy went, "What whiskey do you want?" I said, "I'll literally take anything." And he poured me a Laphroaig and coke. That went down as one of the most awful experiences of my life, drinking a whiskey and coke. But anyway, since I've been sort of more into whiskey over the last year or two, I keep revisiting Laphroaig. Now, I am a big peat fan, huge fan of Ardbeg, love Octomore. In fact, Octomore is one of those first sort of big peaty boys that I went for. And one of my most expensive bottles that I ever thought, I'm really going to invest in a bottle that I really, really like. I've got quite a few bottles up on the shelf which are, I would consider, heavily peated. But there is something about Laphroaig that I've just never really got on with. For me, there's a certain phenolic nature about Laphroaig. There is a certain type of phenol that seems to propagate from the peat to the distillate in Laphroaig that I just never really got on with. It tastes too much down that TCP Band-Aid. For those of you that have ever had a tattoo, that tattoo shop smell. Like, there's too much of that in it, and I never have really had an expression of Laphroaig that developed far beyond that. Now, a lot of you are probably going to say, "But have you tried this particular one? Have you tried that one?" No, I haven't. I've explored Laphroaig, but I've also found a lot of them just had too much Laphroaiginess for me. But anyway, I recently had a sample sent to me by someone. I actually cannot remember for the life of me who it was or what it was, but it was a Laphroaig that was finished in some kind of sherry cask, and it blew my mind. And I thought, right, okay, I need to find something like this. Hang on a sec, I did say I don't like Laphroaig. I do have a bottle of the quarter cask. I do quite like that, but I'll explain why in a minute. So anyway, I went on a bit of a mission to find out what this whiskey was, and I took a punt on a bottle on Master of Malt. Now, while this may not be the whiskey that I found, I've discovered a Laphroaig that I actually quite like. It's the Laphroaig 10-year-old Sherry Oak. This is a 10-year-old whiskey that is distilled and bottled by Laphroaig. It is bottled up at 48%. It comes in a 70 centilitre bottle. This is, of course, an Islay, Laphroaig being an Islay whiskey. Apparently it is unchill filtered and all natural colour. It is bottled up at 48%, which I believe, you don't need to chill filter. I actually recently released a bottle on chill filtration, link in the description. You don't need to chill filter up at 48%, really. So if they did, I'd be very surprised. But from what I understand, it is all natural colour and unchill filtered. So I believe most Laphroaig is peated to about 45 parts per million. And I picked this up from Master of Malt for about £55. Currently £58.99 on Master of Malt. Now, what makes this very interesting and different from the regular Laphroaig 10 is that this has spent its last 12 months at least in an Oloroso sherry cask. I'm a big peat and sherry fan. So this for me was absolutely fantastic. As I say, never been a big fan of Laphroaig. Don't mind the quarter cask so much. I always keep it, if I'm going to keep a bottle on my shelf, it's going to be the one that I found the most palatable and not expensive, which for me thus far was the quarter cask. This is something I'm actually now going to and drinking like off of my own accord. So let's try some. The nose still has all of those briny, salty, seaweedy, phenolic notes that you would expect from a Laphroaig. But underneath it, there is a strong nuttiness, a fruitiness. Figs, raisins, walnuts. Maybe a little bit of like Nutella, you know, what are they called? Hazelnuts. Like a toasted hazelnut smell. Big smoke. We are under no illusion that this is not a very heavily peated whiskey. On the palate, it has Laphroaiginess. That very phenolic, heavily peated Islay note, you know. We've got that the seaweed, salt water, smoke, bonfire, wood smoke, bacon. Everyone talks about it, but it really is true. If you've ever had bacon flavour crisps, in the UK we have Frazzles. Literally artificial smoky bacon flavour. There's tons of that. What I love about this though is the sweet, spicy finish that comes with it. Some more of those sweet fruits and stuff. Now this is where the Laphroaig 10 would fall away from me. It would just be more of that briny, seaweedy, smoky, phenolic note that just kind of tailed off. This has got a big, juicy sweetness underneath it. Those raisins really stand out. When you revisit it, this is sweet. I was getting like red berries going on in there, like summer fruits notes. A little bit of blackcurrant, maybe a bit of dark chocolate as well, like fruit and nut, I guess. But on the nose, you're getting that sherry. You're actually getting something that's not just Laphroaig. The more and more I go back to it, the more of the, I mean, borderline sugary. There's so much sweetness going on, but it's not inherently a sweet whiskey. It's got a fantastic balanced sweetness, but, you know, if it didn't have such a big peat note to go with it, this probably would be borderline sickly, but because there is so much peat available in a Laphroaig, it balances fantastically well. The finish is exactly what you'd expect from a big peated Islay. It's smoky, saline, briny, but you actually get a balance of spicy wood. So this was a very quick review. I'm actually rendering my last video at the moment, and I went to my shelf and picked something up that I fancied, and this is what I went to. And for me, you know, that's the kind of stuff I want to make videos about. When I find something which for me is completely, you know, borderline out of character. This is not a whiskey that I would usually pick up and go to, but this particular bottle, I say this whiskey, a distillery, I would not normally go to, but this, for me, is absolutely fantastic. If you like your big Islas and have maybe never really got on with Laphroaigs for maybe the same reasons that I have, give this a go. It's £55, you know, or 50 to 60 pounds. That's quite a pricey whiskey. That's up there in those that kind of threshold of has to be very good. But I think this is worth it. I think this is that sweet spot where you're going to appease the big Islay drinkers and the people that look for something a little bit richer, a little bit sweeter, a little bit spicier from their whiskey. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all very much for watching. If you've liked this video, please do drop a like down below. And honestly, if you've ever tried any of the other interesting Laphroaig cask finishes, please let me know, because honestly, I'd love to give them a go. If you would like to support the channel, please do consider subscribing. And on that note, Slanjavar.